Hi, I'm Kim DeRocco, and we are standing here with Gary Smith. He is the Vice President
Correct.
of the Memorial 9/11
9/11
Coalition.
Memorial Coalition. That's a
Thank you
mouthful.
very much.
Yes.
We were just standing here talking about the weather,
Yes.
Gary, and you were telling me that you feel it's still going to be a great success.
Oh, it is. We ride rain or shine. In 2009, we had a major rainstorm, 60-degree weather, and we still had over 1,200 riders. So this group is here to memorialize this event, and the weather, though it does detract a bit because there are some fair weather riders and people that are not, really familiar riding in rain, we just assume they just not ride anyway. But this ride takes place no matter what.
And it's a very good ride. Can you tell us a little bit about the route this year?
Surely, this route is basically like our original route. We're now going through Williamsport once again. Last year, because of bridge construction and other factors, we were unable to go through. So we will actually be going through Williamsport, Du Bois Town, and then cutting across the Colonel Abram Howard Bridge and coming up through 3rd Street, making the circuit. 42-mile ride, fully escorted.
Is there anything else interesting that we may not know about this ride that you could share with us?
Well, there's a lot of behind the scenes. People see the actual ride. But this event, we will start again in October, planning for next year's ride. Permitting, because you have to actually permit 42 miles of state highways, etc. And it's kind of unusual. This is the largest event of this type in the United States. So we're now getting a lot of national prominence. People have heard about it. Last year's ride, we had people from 9 states away, rode far away as Minnesota to come to this event. So we're very thankful for the people that have come here, that support it, because that's what it's all about.
That's amazing. You just gave me goosebumps. It's very, very impressive. You guys must be very proud.
We are proud. We're proud of all the people that help, because it's a few of us are on camera, we're in the newspaper, but it's a group of hundreds and hundreds of volunteers from the fire departments, from the law enforcement, community officials, our county commissioners, Eugene Yaw, all these people working together to bring this event into fruition.
Hi, we're standing here with Tank Baird. He is the president of the 9/11 Memorial Coalition. Tank, can you tell me how you got wet?
I got wet shooing the idiots in from standing around in the parking lot with this shower that's going over because they're all psyched and they don't care about the rain. But, we don't want them to get wet prematurely. We got 42 miles to go, so, yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
We were just talking to Gary Smith, the vice president, and he was talking about the people still tend to participate in this even though the weather is not the greatest.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Weather is a factor in the motorcycle event. Typically, we would get about a third. Any motorcycle event will get about a third because it gets to be a tricky thing riding in formation when it's wet. It's not impossible. It's certainly not that unsafe. It's just you got to take a little extra caution. So yeah, and we've got a nice crowd here. And as far as I'm very pleased with the storms being in the area that they even came out. So we're good.
Yes, it does seem like there's a lot of people here. I know you anticipated over 5,000 people.
Yeah, it's what we had last year. And for whatever, it could have been the rain that has kept some of the numbers down. It could be the fact that there's another competing large event in Washington. But for whatever reason, we have, I don't know, I'd only estimate right now 1,000. And that's, you got to be happy with that.
Absolutely. And let me ask you another question. What inspired you to do this after the 9/11 tragedy?
It was sitting around watching those planes hit those towers over and over again. And Don Miller and I, the co-founder, we were actually in the same farmhouse out in the country, and we were members of the same motorcycle club, and we saw that and we said, basically, we've got to do something. And we started talking the night of the attack. It continued for a day or so, and then we just started making calls. And within 24 to 48 hours, we had the location. We had a police escort, which was a little unusual. At least I thought so at the time. And we had 85 riders, and it was like basically lighting a powder keg. And, you know, everybody felt the same. We were all angry. Nobody knew what was going on. I don't even know whether they assessed blame for the attacks at that point. But there's no doubt about it, that first ride was a protest ride.
This event has certainly turned out to be very awe-inspiring, and it is nice to see so many people come together and be brothers and fellow patriots. It really is it's an excellent.
Yeah, and I think the coalition sets the table for the event, and believe me, it's a lot of work. I mean, it's a year-round thing for us. The men and women of this coalition are dedicated to it, and I think it's because you still see after 12 years, you see the response of these people. They're not here just for a motorcycle ride. They could do that anytime, any place. They're here for this is the anniversary of 9/11, and they're here for that reason. And the people that you will see out on the streets are standing there for the same reason. That I do not believe that it's just because of a line of motorcycles. We use that as a medium for the message, but it is not the message. The message is that we will never forget.
And we are Americans.
And we are Americans, absolutely. And where in the world would you see this? It's been described as a slice of Americana, only in America.
Hi, we're standing here with Dan Farr from Backyard Broadcasting, and they're one of the sponsors of Memorial Ride. Dan, how long have you been involved with this?
We started sponsoring the event in 2003. It's a great event. It's community involved. Not only are the motorcycles involved in this, but on the 42-mile ride we'll take today, the streets are lined with all kinds of people. Kids, retired veterans, disabled. It's just a great event. We're remembering the first responders of 9/11, and I think it's a great way to do it, and we're proud to be a sponsor of it.
I see you're wearing your vest. Are you going to be riding today?
I am. I've ridden every year since 2003.
That's great. Rain or shine?
Rain or shine. It's only rained one other time, and I think this rain's going to pass over tonight.
And you rode the last time it rained?
Oh, yes.
Oh, good. That's
Yeah.
good to hear.
Good. Normally I would bore you guys with ride instructions, but I'm not going to do that. I would assume if you're out here riding in the rain, you know how to ride your motorcycle, and I expect you to ride it well. The chief of, or the Lycoming County Sheriff is going to keep us to about 40 to 45 miles an hour when he can, and if this rain continues, we may be a little slower. I don't want any wheelies. I don't want any showing off. This is a rolling memorial, folks, and despite the rain, we should have a lot of people standing out there. So I want you to be on your best behavior. We are going to ride in staggered formation. If you don't know what that means, stay here. This is a 42-mile ride this year, and it begins and ends right here. In Williamsport, we should ride unimpeded. There's volunteer fire and police out there to block the intersections the entire way. But you may be stopped in Williamsport to relieve traffic. If that happens, just be patient. Don't get upset. This is a fully escorted ride. The Sheriff's Department, the Lycoming County Sheriff's Department is going to go out first. The 103rd Armored is going to be in back of them. We got several vehicles that will have members of the coalition and press in. Those members either are non-riders or cannot ride at this point, so forgive us for that. All riders will fall in between those vehicles. The rear will be a Rescue 21, so fall in between those vehicles. This will be very important, this ride, and I'm just going to preach this one point, then I'm going to turn it over for the memorial. Last year we had an incident right out here, and I've been preaching it for years. If you see a gap in that line, don't hit the throttle to try to close the gap. We want the gap closed, but just about the time you hit that throttle, that line's going to be slowing. We had an incident right out here where that's exactly what happened. The guy that wanted to fill that gap hit the throttle hard, the line slowed down, and he ended up in a field, and he took another rider with him. So creep up on that rider in front of you.
I'd like to read a proclamation that we got from Governor Tom Corbett. Greetings. It is my pleasure to join with the 9/11 Memorial Coalition to welcome everyone gathered here today in Montgomery, Pennsylvania for the 12th annual 9/11 Memorial Motorcycle Ride. Since its founding in 2001, the 9/11 Memorial Coalition has remained committed to its mission of demonstrating appreciation for the first responders and citizens who displayed heroism and courage during the tragic events of September 11, 2001. I applaud this foundation for its efforts to communicate these heroes, and I join with you in honoring those that risked their lives that day, as well as the first responders who risk their lives every day to protect our country and our communities. I commend all those involved in making this event possible, and I hope the 9/11 Memorial Coalition will continue to be successful for many years to come. As governor and on behalf of all Pennsylvanians, I am pleased to welcome all those participating in the motorcycle ride. Please accept my best wishes for an enjoyable and memorial event. Governor Tom Corbin. I'd like to take just a few moments and thank our legislatures, Governor Yaws, Senator Yaws, our Representative Garth Everett, County Commissioner Whelan, and others, Lycoming County Sheriff Mark Lusk, Lycoming, all the people that are here, the local police, fire departments, Clinton Township Fire Volunteer. I mean, without this fire department behind us, without Clinton Township's support as we have it today, this ride could not take place. So a very heartfelt thanks to them. We'd like to recommend and tell each one about some of the sponsors. There's so many of them. We advise you go to our website, www.memorialcoalition.org. But a special thanks to Backyard Broadcasting and Dan Farr, who without his advertising and that, the word would have never gotten out. Lycoming County Visitors Bureau for printing up all of our brochures. Flagger Force for their road patrols that are going to be out there today. And Howard Kaler Post 844 of the VFW. And for any veterans that are here, if you're a veteran like I am and you don't belong to the VFW, join up. Help those because they're helping our men. So I thank each and every one of you. And at this time, I'd like Father Mano to come up, if he would, please.
If you're here, you know we know why we are here. Because for the 12th year, you are here to remember and to honor all those who lost their lives at the World Trade Center, 3,000 of them as we know. And also in that 3,000, we have the ones at Shanksville and we have the ones at the Pentagon. Your cards that you have, you know that there are now 4 names on every single one of them. And you have to know that now we have slightly over 6,000 who've given their lives in Iraq and Afghanistan. And behind every one of them, there is a family. So as you ride today, keep that card next to your heart, and also when you get home, put it on the refrigerator or anywhere else that you will be remembered to pray for those families. You don't have to worry about praying for them. God has them, he's creating them, but their families, for them, that's the heartache which never is going to go away. And we remember those men, Iraq and Afghanistan, they died for the cause of freedom and justice and to end terrorism. Okay, people, so we have licked our wounds. We have buried our dead. But now we know that like the phoenix in Greek mythology, we have raised from the ashes. And that's what we're celebrating today. I want you to know that those who previously keynoted this were people who probably had a little more intense experience than I did at Ground Zero. I was there several months afterwards, but there was still smoldering. There was still the smoldering. There was still the terrible devastation of wreckage and of debris. The triage was gone now. The fire trucks, which literally had melted, they had been taken away. But what was there was a tremendous spirit. In the early 50s, the Royals, whom we all know about from England, 2 of them Prince Philip and Princess Anne came to the United States. They were toured, but I don't think they really saw the United States. They went to Washington. They were at the Congress. Prince Anne went up to one of the congressmen and she asked, why is the eagle the symbol of America? The congressman responded, I don't know. She replied, to me, I think it's a poor choice. Everybody, the eagle is a symbol of our country because of all the birds of the air. It builds its nest in the loftiest of peaks and under the most difficult of situations. 12 years ago, that eagle had a tear coming down the side of his face on its beak. But it rose again. That's what was at ground zero. All right? When you got there, you saw St. Paul's Chapel. That was our pastoral center. That was the basis for all operation. That church, St. Paul's, Lower Manhattan now, right at the edge of ground zero, that was standing. That's a miracle. The implosion of Tower 2 was so strong, it was like a highest category imaginable of a hurricane. That church did not destruct. The blast went through it rather than against it. And you know why? Because they had the homeless sleeping in that night and the windows were all open. How about that? You go to St. Paul's, the first thing you saw, and this is what makes America rise, family ties that never end. Those families had taken and made homemade signs with their relative's picture on and all the description of them. Those families adjusted those almost every day, and they remained there until halfway through the spring. Through the doors of St. Paul's, there came the FDNY, the NYPD, the transit officers, the EMTs, the medics, and all the people that were helping, counselors and all that. They came in. So that was the spirit there of all welcome. The firefighters and police, they were black, they were white, they were Asian. It was America. Inside, you had rising above nature, like we're doing today. We had a table, and there was chapstick. There was over-the-counter remedies for everything. Gloves, hand warmers, face warmers, everything. As you went along, you saw so many other things there to help. So it was that spirit. It was also that spirit of talent. There was a piano there and a nun playing classical music to soothe people. All around there were masseuses with their cots, and all around the top, because when people came in, they were hurt, they were bruised, they were sore, they were cut. And you saw that. You saw so many other talents being given. There was a buffet table, and restaurants in Manhattan were all there, and with all kinds of food for them. That was the sharing of people's talents. There was also humor. You know, as Americans, we are always finding ways of having humor, even in foxholes. Right, Korean War veterans, we have that. There was a police officer, a beautiful lady who was coming in to eat, and I saw her, she kind of smiled at me. What we did as clergy, remember, the morgue was still there, the morgue was still busy. The morgue was part of our duty, and one of us was always on call for 8 hours in St. Paul's. We didn't go to anybody, they waited if they needed to come to us. This lady cop, she was also a single mom, and she's having trouble balancing all her dishes. I said, do you want help? And she said, yes, Pastor. And so she took her things. I said, you go ahead of me, and I'll just follow you. And as she did, I sang. I said, I will follow you wherever you may lead me. She turned around, she said, Father, I think you had too much sister act. So we had those moments. What a beautiful, beautiful lady. You looked around, you saw people of valor. When you went in, the first thing I saw before my orientation was a burly fireman, and he's got his arm resting on his habit, he's on his elbow, or on his arm, resting on his helmet. He's in one of the pews, stretched out. His head is resting on a teddy bear, which has been sent in from a kid in Kansas. All right? There was a firefighter, another person of valor. We had little brown crosses there. He said, Father, bless this for me so I can put it over my son's crib and pray that he's never going to have to witness anything like that. We had the Tully construction workers. They came in. They were angry every time they came in because as you see right here, this is what they were finding climbing through. And once again, a little bit of humor. They were always angry, but the one said, and this guy here, he's our sniffer. He can smell the difference between debris and human remains. Think of that. And all those remains, no matter how small they were or what, were sacred and were taken to the morgue with great reverence. Okay? So we see all these people of valor and how great that is. And the final thing that was raising us, okay, the final thing that raised us was faith. It really was. A special faith in a power greater than we are. There was the ghost of Father Michael Judge, who was the chaplain of the firefighters of New York City. He was the very first body bag. He was in the very first body bag, which was taken to St. Peter's Church and placed on the floor in front of the altar. He would be the first of many of those bags. St. Peter's had also a hole in its roof because the landing gear had gone through that. That's the faith we're talking about. I found myself in the little cemetery. Oh, by the way, speaking of the faith of history and the present, in the pew, the box pew that George Washington worshipped in that church, he couldn't have gotten in it because it was piled high with soda cartons with soft drinks in it. And, you know, all those things were impressive. All those things were of faith. My worst moment came after my orientation. Giving me my orientation was a beautiful EMT by the name of Linda McCarty. She was there when the planes hit. She worked untiringly for 2 weeks, at the end of which she took a complete nervous breakdown. She was hospitalized. She was allowed to come back after a hospitalization of 1 month just to walk around. And the other thing she did for therapy, she drew. And later on, when you come back, I have one of the pictures she drew. Wait till you see what she drew, and I have a photograph of her on the back. You could bring no souvenirs back from Ground Zero, anything that could be a souvenir. Dust, nothing. But that I had. So I stood there in the graveyard. And I have to be honest, I wanted to come back. I wanted to come back to Pennsylvania. But all of a sudden I looked down, and the tombstones had been covered, completely covered with dust from the towers. It had been cleared. I looked down, and you know what prematurely was there? The tulips were coming up. And I thought, God, that's a sign to me. You're always giving out life, but we have to be in your likeness if we're going to respect life or destroy it. And when you looked at Ground Zero, you got the worst feeling of a combination of evil and human ingenuity. And it's a tremendous thing to think about. In conclusion, I went back to Ground Zero for the first time 2 years ago, and I had our graduating seniors with me. I couldn't have gotten in if it hadn't been for them. We joined hands and we prayed. And we looked up, and what you see is, in the footprints of the towers, you see these beautiful waterfalls. And I thought the eagle was crying, and now the eagle no longer cries, but the water flows, the water of hope. And that water goes down and waterfalls. You'll see things on the benches that say Mary Smith and her unborn child. All the victims, all their names are there. And you look up then and you see this incredible skyscraper, as straight and narrow as it can be. It's incredible. And we talked about the eagle. Sun Cassandra publications please do not quote me on this, I'll be in trouble. Because I thought, we're raising the eagle. And when you see that without fear, that building sticking up there, it's like we're flipping evil the bird. Okay? Anyway, so that's where it is. So everybody, the eagle has risen, the eagle will not fall, and that's what we celebrate this day. The main thing that the eagle did was, it made us all one. A short prose written by one of the people that served at Ground Zero. It's called One. As the soot and the dirt and ash rained over us, we became one color. As we carried each other down the stairs of the burning building, we became one class. As we lit candles of hope and remembrance, we became one generation. As the firefighters and police officers fought their way into the inferno, we became one gender. As we fell to our knees in prayer and strength, we became one faith. As we whispered or shouted words of encouragement, we spoke one language. As we gave our blood in lines mile long, we became one body. As we mourned together the great loss, we became one family. As we cried tears of rage and grief, we became one soul. As we shared with pride the sacrifice of heroes, we became one people. We are one people. The eagle is made its home. It will never be put down again. God bless, and what a wonderful witness today. Please hold up your cards. Everybody hold your fallen warrior cards up, please. Bless those whose names there are, and bless us who carry on their memory. And as they said from that airplane, as they rushed the cockpit, are we ready? Let's hear you. Let's roll! Let's roll! Let's roll!